Hi, I'm Farideh, and today we're gonna make Rhode Island style pizza strips. Okay, so Rhode Island pizza strips. You'll find this style of pizza, particularly in the Northeast United States. In Philadelphia, they call it tomato pie, same as in Utica. In Rhode Island, they call them pizza strips. So we're gonna make those today. It's really easy. It's kind of like a focaccia style dough, and we're using bread flour. To start off, we're gonna use some sugar right in there, break that up. And I'm using some active dry yeast also. And then we're gonna add some water, about 500 mils, heated to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Whoop. Right in there. The yeast will stop popping and start like kind of getting really fluffy and stuff when it activates, and then we'll add in our flour and our salt. The key to Rhode Island style pizza strips or tomato pie is in its simplicity. You really need good dough, which we're making, really good sauce, and an amazing oven, which we have with the Gozney Arc XL. Ta-da! You can see this is already activating, which means it's kind of like bubbling up. This is New York, so it's like 95 degrees today. Full humidity, the yeast is activated, we're ready to add our flour. I'm using bread flour in this. It's a high protein flour. Because it's high protein flour, it adds more chew and structure and stability and has a better rise to it, which is gonna be really good for like our focaccia based crust in this, okay? So we're gonna add our bread flour right on in there. Because it's so humid out, we probably will need to add a little bit more flour to this. So we'll just kind of wait and see how it looks and add a little bit at a time as needed. So we're doing bread flour and some salt. Use our trusty dough hook here, and away we go. Lock and load. Gonna start it off nice and slow until it kind of combines, and then we'll turn up the speed and let it really start kneading. When Italians first started coming to the United States, other Americans, they didn't really call pizza pizza. It was often called tomato pie, because then people like European immigrants kind of knew what they were talking about. No one really knew the term pizza until probably after like in 1930s or something. In Rhode Island, there's a really big Italian American population, especially in Providence and the Federal Hill region of that little city. I go to Rhode Island all the time. I love Rhode Island. I think it's one of my favorite states. It's a very small state, the smallest state here in the United States, but it's also known as the Ocean State. So there's a lot of really good seafood, but because of this high Italian American population, amazing pizzas, amazing pizza strips, Italian food in general. The thing about Rhode Island pizza strips is that they're not made in pizzerias. You won't find them anywhere in a pizzeria in Rhode Island. You only find them in the grocery store or in bakeries. So initially they were in bakeries only, and they used leftover bread dough to make these things. They made them on big sheets, topped it with tomato sauce, and baked it. So they didn't put cheese on the pizza strips because they were sold at room temperature, and the health department would shut them down if they had pizza strips with cheese on them. So they were a cheeseless strip sold in bakeries at room temperature. You can see that's like very wet. So I'm gonna add a little bit more flour, give her another little stir. Okay, let me just check this out. Yeah, that looks good. So it's still slightly sticky, you can see, but what I'm gonna do is just put some flour on my hands. I don't wanna add too much flour, I don't want it to be too dry, but if I just add enough flour onto my hands to help kind of get it, it'll work out better. You can see it's a really nice soft dough. It's looking really pliable. It's bouncing back slightly when I touch it. It's beautiful. We're gonna pop this in here. Our dough's gonna rise 3 times. First rise, it says it's gonna rise until it's doubled in size, about 1 hour, and then we'll divide it between 2 trays. Our dough has proofed for about an hour. It has doubled in size. It's looking really good. It's definitely gonna be stuck to the plastic wrap because I did not oil the top of it because I'm clearly a rookie. So it's sticking a little bit, and that's okay. We'll just go like that. No big deal. All right, so proofed a lot. It's stuck a little bit to the plastic wrap, that's fine. Because we're making 2 kinds of pizza strips, I'm gonna divide the dough in half. And one of them is gonna be a tomato pie, and one of them is going to be the pizza strips. They call them like white pizza strips. And they've got butter and herbs and Parmesan cheese on them. I'm oiling my hands a little bit, and I'm gonna put some oil, spread it out into the pans. My dough is looking good, and I'm just going to take this and divide it. Oh, look at this. This is a good looking dough, honestly. I love it. There we go. Pretty equally divided. I'm gonna put the dough onto these and kind of push it out a little bit. Same with the second one onto this guy. And you don't need to do much, just kind of like put it there. That's it. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on the top of both of these. The oil is gonna help do two things. One, prevent the dough from sticking once it's baked to the pan, but also two, the oil kind of helps almost like deep fry and crisp up the bottom of the dough. So it's gonna be really nice. We're gonna cover each of these trays with some plastic wrap or a towel and let them rise again for an hour. You can see they're not spread all the way to the edges of the pan, and that's okay. They're gonna rise for an hour, and once the hour's up, I can like just kind of push it gently with my fingertips right up to the edges. You'll see it's gonna be perfect. Okay, our dough has been divided. It's on 2 trays. It's having its second rise for another hour. Meanwhile, we're gonna make the tomato sauce. So we're gonna make it using passata. Passata is different from a regular tomato sauce you might find in cans at the grocery store. Passata is made from Italian tomatoes that have been pureed and strained and uncooked, whereas tomato sauce is made from tomatoes that have been cooked down a little bit. You could use passata or tomato sauce. I prefer using passata because passata, again, it's uncooked, so it's gonna kind of get cooked a little bit when it's in the oven, but also passata has no extra seasoning added into it. And I prefer that, so I can kind of season it myself, which is what we're gonna do now. If you use tomato sauce, just be aware of how much extra salt or oregano or garlic that you're adding to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt right on in here and some dried oregano and then some fresh garlic. Now with the garlic, I'm going to grate it. The reason I'm gonna grate the garlic instead of adding it in minced or whatever is that because we're adding this in raw and because the sauce isn't getting cooked at all, I want to have it grated so that it kind of like melts and disappears into there a little bit, but still has a little bit of that garlic flavor, just not the bite. The smell of raw garlic, honestly, one of my favorite things. I'm gonna add a little bit more garlic into it because I like that garlic flavor, but again, add as much or as little as you like. And then we're just gonna give this a little mix, and you can use this just as is. It's gonna be perfect. I love this. I was eating it with a spoon sometimes. You can use this as a pizza sauce as well if you want, but it's really good on these tomato pies. It's going to get a little bit like more unctuous when you put it in the oven. It'll take on a lot more flavor. That's so good. I love it so much. Okay, this is ready to go. We'll check on my dough and see if it's risen, and we'll add this to the top and let it rise the third time, and then we can bake it. So our dough has risen. You can see it's looking really good. Remember how I said that we weren't gonna really worry about the fact that it wasn't all the way to the edges yet and we we're just gonna let it rise on its own? You can see it's basically almost there. So it's looking perfect. And look, oiling the top works so that the plastic wrap doesn't stick. That's a little pro tip for you. These look great. Again, I'm gonna take some more oil onto my fingies over here. We're going to just spread this dough out using the tip of our fingers right to the edges. And I'm just gonna be like really gentle with it and kind of like move it a little. A lot of oil in there, that's good. This is maybe not getting all the way to the edges, but after another 30 minutes, it will get into the corners. So don't worry, okay? Don't stress about it. And unlike with focaccia, I'm not gonna like put big dimples in this, okay? That's not what we're looking for with this, okay? A lot of red sauce onto here. And you might think like that's way too much sauce. It's not. Right there, you can see some like white, like the dough poking through. I'm gonna go back and add more. We need a lot on this because again, this is such a simple thing and the sauce is one of the main elements and you want it to taste good. You want to taste all that sauce on it. We're gonna leave a little bit of a crust, just a little bit. Nice and thick amount of sauce. Look at that. She's a real beaut right there. For the second one, we're gonna put butter on the bottom. Just so you know how hot it is out here, this butter was solid when we started filming and it is now completely melted. So that's how hot it is. Butter all the way over, all over the top. And when this bakes, after it comes out, I'm gonna add more butter and more Parmesan. So just bear that in mind. We're gonna do some Parmesan. This is a really good Parmesan, but it is like that powdered kind because that's just iconic, you know? Icons only over here. And this goes all the way to the edge. A little bit of garlic powder as well, just a sprinkling all over, and Italian seasoning. If you want to use straight up oregano, that's fine too. I have this really nice Italian seasoning that actually has a little bit of lemon in it, which I find really nice. We're gonna let these rise for another 30 minutes or so. Our pizza strips have risen. They look really good, if I do say so myself. Our oven's at around 800 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna cut the flame on the oven, pop these in and let them cook one at a time, rotating them until it's nice and browned and cooked through. Okay, I'm gonna do the tomato pie first. Doesn't she look good? Problem though is that you want to eat it now, but the thing about Rhode Island pizza strips is that you eat it cold at room temperature. So we're gonna let this cool down completely. Meanwhile, let's bake the second one though. The iconic thing about these, especially the red ones, is that they're like cut into strips then like wrapped in wax paper to serve, or like have cellophane on the top and stuff, which is kind of weird, but it's just Rhode Island. It's just the way it is. It's pizza strips, okay? It's great. I'm gonna let these cool to room temperature. I do have a swap that I made yesterday that we can eat and enjoy now. I put some Parmesan on this yesterday because I wanted to, but it usually comes, the cling film, the Glad wrap is directly on it like this. Like this is how it comes, but it's delicious and it's the way pizza strips were meant to be eaten and served and consumed. And I do like to cut with scissors because I think it helps not disturb the crumb. It's very much an Italian thing. And I come from an Italian family. My grandmother used to cut pizza with scissors, and that's how I like to cut all my stuff. I like to add a little bit more butter onto this and a little more cheese. When I got this for the first time, they have so much cheese on it, on the white one. These are called pizza strips, so I like to come into strips. However, I have gotten them at the grocery store and seen them at parties cut into squares because it's for a party, and like then people can take a square instead of an entire strip, okay? I'm gonna cut it into strips though. It's got a nice little crumb action in there. It's looking really beautiful. All right, we're gonna cut it into another strip. We'll do one and one here. This looks good. Looks very good. You normally would eat these just as they are, right? Just like this, you get a little square, you eat it, you're like, that's so good. My friends, I have some friends who are a little more bougie in Rhode Island, and they serve it with like some olive oil dipping sauce. So I'm gonna make a little dipping sauce to go with it because why not? But that is not traditional by any means, okay? Some good olive oil in here, some of this Italian seasoning, some salt, and some chili flakes. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of garlic powder as well. And that's how we're gonna serve our pizza strips here. By no means traditional, but a little bit extra special and delicious, okay? So that's it, Rhode Island pizza strips. These are so good, I'm so excited to eat this. I'm gonna cut into it. I mean, just look at it. It's got a nice crumb. The tomato sauce is so good on this because it's such a simple recipe. All you taste is these like brightness of the tomatoes. There's that hint of garlic in there, the oregano. It's delicious. If you're at a party and you're in Rhode Island, you're gonna be eating pizza strips. And if you're not, then leave that party and go get some, you know? Let's try the white one, which also is gonna be delicious. Oh, it's so fluffy too. That's so good. This one I really like to dip in the oil because it doesn't have as much of like the tomato flavor. I love it. Incredible. If you're ever in Rhode Island, go to the bakery. If you can't get to Rhode Island and go get pizza strips yourself, then make this recipe at home. Either way, you should go to Rhode Island and get these and also make these at home. Do the comparison yourself. Tweak the recipe. Have fun with it. It's delicious. We love it. For the recipe, go to Gozney, click the link below. Enjoy. Thank you guys so much. We don't need no cheese on our pizza. We don't need no mozzarella.